Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the massive alien ships block out the stars. Her hands gripped the command chair as she counted the enemy vessels. 200 Council ships surrounded Earth, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. The largest dreadnought was 10 times the size of her flagship. "Captain, we're getting reports from the other ships," Lieutenant Torres said from his station. His voice shook slightly. "The Wellington is badly damaged. The Mumbai lost half her weapons. The civilian ships are holding formation, but they won't last long in a real fight." Sarah nodded grimly. The human fleet consisted of 37 ships. Most were cargo haulers and passenger vessels fitted with whatever weapons they could find. Only 12 were real warships, and even those were outdated compared to Council technology. They faced impossible odds. The communication screen flickered to life. Admiral Zixathera's reptilian face appeared, his yellow eyes showing cold satisfaction. The Council's military leader had given humanity one final chance to surrender 3 days ago. Now that time was up. "Human Captain Chen," Zixathera said in perfect English, "your species has refused our generous offer. You could have lived peacefully on your world. Instead, you chose to spread across the galaxy like a disease. This ends today." Sarah stepped forward, her jaw set firm. "Admiral, humanity has done nothing but explore and build colonies. We've never attacked Council worlds. We only defended ourselves when you tried to stop us." Zixathera's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You are young and violent. In time, you would have threatened the peace we have maintained for 10,000 years. Better to end this now." "Then you'll have to fight us," Sarah replied. "Humanity doesn't surrender." The alien admiral's eyes gleamed. "So be it. You have 5 minutes to say goodbye to your world." The screen went black. Sarah turned to her crew. 26 men and women looked back at her, fear and determination mixed on their faces. These people had volunteered to die today knowing they couldn't win. But they would make the Council pay for every human life. All ships. Sarah spoke into the fleet communication system. "This is Admiral Chen. You know why we're here. Earth is behind us. 8 billion people are counting on us to buy them time. We may not win today, but we'll show these aliens what humans are made of." Responses came back from across the fleet. Captain Martinez of the cargo ship Freedom's Dream, Commander Hassan of the destroyer Beijing, even civilian ship captains who had never fired a shot in anger. All ready to fight, the Council fleet began moving. Their ships advanced in perfect formation, weapons charging with deadly light. Sarah watched the tactical display as red dots crept closer to Earth's orbit. In minutes, those ships would be close enough to destroy every human vessel. "All ships attack Formation Delta," Sarah ordered. "We're going straight at them." The human fleet accelerated toward the enemy. The smaller ships spread out to make harder targets. The destroyers and frigates formed a spearhead with the Defiance at the tip. They had one advantage. Council ships were built for overwhelming firepower, not close combat. If the humans could get close enough, they might damage a few enemy vessels before dying. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a deadly fireworks show. Council plasma beams and particle weapons reached out across thousands of kilometers. Most shots missed the fast-moving human ships, but not all. The freighter New York exploded in a ball of fire. The destroyer Moscow lost her engines and began spinning helplessly. Human weapons fired back. Kinetic rounds and nuclear missiles streaked toward the Council fleet. Most were stopped by enemy shields, but a few got through. The human weapons were primitive but effective. A Council cruiser shuddered as 3 nuclear warheads detonated against its hull. "Keep firing," Sarah shouted. "Close the distance." The Defiance shook as enemy fire found her shields. The lights flickered and sparks flew from damaged systems. Around her, the human fleet was being torn apart. The Wellington broke in half. The civilian ship Hope's Journey simply vanished in a flash of light. But they were getting closer. Sarah could see the details of Council ship hulls now. Her weapons officer was picking individual targets instead of firing blind. The human fleet might die, but they would hurt the enemy first. "Captain, the Mumbai is making a suicide run," Torres reported. "They've lost life support and are heading straight for that dreadnought." Sarah watched as the damaged human destroyer accelerated toward the largest Council ship. Point defense weapons tried to stop her, but Captain Singh had locked the controls. The Mumbai struck the alien dreadnought at full speed, her remaining nuclear missiles detonating on impact. The explosion tore a massive hole in the enemy ship's side. "That's how we do it," Sarah whispered. She opened the fleet channel again. All remaining ships focus fire on damaged targets. Make every shot count. The battle continued for another hour. One by one, human ships died in flashes of fire and metal. But they took council vessels with them. The alien formation was broken now, their neat lines disrupted by desperate human attacks. 5 council ships had been destroyed, and twice that many were damaged. Sarah looked around her bridge. Half her crew was dead or wounded. The Defiance was barely holding together, her hull cracked and her weapons failing. Only 7 human ships remained, and most of those were dying. "Captain," her communications officer called weakly. Blood ran down his face from a head wound. "We're getting a message from Earth. President Harrison wants to speak with you." The elderly president appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a bunker. Behind him, Sarah could see other government officials and military leaders. The people who would have to surrender when the fleet was gone. "Admiral Chen," the president said formally. Sarah realized he had promoted her in humanity's final hour. "You and your people have fought with honor. Earth is proud of you. But it's time to let us handle the rest." Sarah understood. The fleet was finished. Soon the council would demand Earth's surrender, and the president would have to agree. There was no point in more people dying uselessly. "Mr. President," Sarah replied, "it's been an honor to serve. We'll make our last run count." She cut the connection and turned to her remaining crew. "Prepare for ramming speed. Target the council command ship." The Defiance turned toward Admiral Zixthera's massive flagship. Her engines, damaged but still working, pushed the ship faster and faster. Council weapons fired desperately at the approaching human vessel, but Sarah's pilot was skilled. They dodged most shots, took others on their failing shields. As they closed the final distance, Sarah activated the ship's communication system one last time. She broadcast on all frequencies, both human and council, so everyone would hear humanity's final message. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance," she said calmly. "To any humans listening out there among the stars, remember us. Remember that we fought. Remember that we never gave up. Someday humanity will return to the stars, and when we do, we'll be stronger than ever." The Defiance struck the council flagship at ramming speed. Both ships disappeared in a brilliant explosion that lit up half the solar system. The remaining human vessels, inspired by their admiral's sacrifice, made their own final attacks. Within minutes, the human fleet was gone. Admiral Zixthera, commanding from a backup ship, looked at the debris field where once proud vessels had fought and died. The humans had been defeated completely. Their fleet was destroyed, their world defenseless. Yet something about their final battle troubled him. He had never seen a species fight so desperately, so without regard for survival. Most civilized races surrendered when facing certain death, but these humans had fought to the very end, taking as many enemies with them as possible. Still, it was over. Humanity was defeated, Earth would surrender within days, and the galaxy would return to its proper order. The Council had won another victory, just as they always did. In the wreckage of the Defiance, a single escape pod tumbled unnoticed toward Earth, carrying Admiral Chen's final transmission into the void. 6 months after the human fleet's destruction, Admiral Zixthera stood before the Galactic Council on Kelros Prime. The meeting chamber was a massive crystal dome that floated in space above the gas giant's swirling clouds. 12 thrones arranged in a circle held the Council Lords, each representing billions of beings across thousands of worlds. "Report." "Admiral," spoke Council Lord Prime Veltaran, his blue-scaled head turning toward the military commander. The Veltari had ruled the Council for 3,000 years, longer than any other species. Their wisdom was respected throughout the galaxy. Zixthera activated a holographic display showing the Sol system. Earth appeared as a small blue dot surrounded by red markers indicating Council patrol ships. The human homeworld remains under complete blockade. All space traffic has been stopped. No human vessel has attempted to leave their system since the battle. Council Lord Vexmiran, eldest of the 12, leaned forward in his throne. His ancient species had lived for over 50,000 years, watching civilizations rise and fall. "What of the human population? Have they accepted their fate?" "They continue their daily lives," Zixthera replied. "Their governments have formally surrendered. Some groups resist, but they have no weapons that can threaten our ships. The blockade fleet reports no significant activity." Lord Kixandra of the insectoid hive clans clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "The humans fought harder than expected, 5 of our ships destroyed, 12 more damaged. This is unusual for such a primitive species. Sixthera nodded. They fought with desperate courage, I will give them that. But courage without wisdom is useless. They threw their ships at us like wild animals without strategy or proper tactics. Their technology was centuries behind ours. Lord Thanuros, whose rocky form rarely moved, spoke in his grinding voice. Perhaps we should eliminate them entirely. A species so violent might prove dangerous in the future. No, Velterran said firmly. We are not exterminators. The humans are contained. In time they will learn peace as all species do. Their children will forget their dreams of space and be content with their single world. The chamber fell silent as the council lords considered this. They had seen it happen before. Young species often tried to expand too quickly across the galaxy, causing chaos and conflict. The council's job was to maintain order, to prevent the wars that had once torn civilizations apart. What about their colonies? Asked Lord Fisara, her crystalline form shimmering with different colors. Our records show humans established several settlements before we stopped them. Zixthera checked his data. 17 confirmed colonies in nearby systems. All were small outposts with basic technology. Without support from Earth, they will fail within a few years. The colonists will either die or return home if they have the means. And their exploration ships? Velterran inquired. Some were reported in distant sectors. A few cargo vessels and survey ships, nothing significant, the Admiral replied. They were heading to uninhabited systems far from our territory. If they survived at all, they are too far away to matter. They certainly could not threaten the Council. Lord Vexmiran settled back in his throne, satisfied. In 10,000 years of galactic peace, no species has ever recovered from such a decisive defeat. The humans will fade into obscurity, becoming a footnote in galactic history. Their children will tell stories of their brief time among the stars, but those stories will grow dim with time. The other council lords murmured agreement. This was the natural order of things. Young species learned their place, accepted council authority, and contributed to galactic civilization in peaceful ways. The alternative was chaos, war, and destruction. What measures remain in place? Velterran asked. The blockade will continue for 50 years, Zixthera reported. After that, we will allow limited space travel for trade and cultural exchange, but only to approved council worlds. Human technology development will be monitored to ensure they do not create weapons of war. Excellent, the Prime Lord said. The human problem is solved. Admiral, you and your forces are to be commended for maintaining order with minimal losses. Zixthera bowed formally. The Council's will has been done. As the meeting ended, the lords began discussing other matters. Trade disputes between the Veltari and the Zephyrian Collective. A request from the Outer Rim territories for increased patrol coverage. The routine business of governing a galaxy. Lord Vexmiran remained behind as the others departed. His ancient mind often dwelled on patterns others missed. Something about the human defeat bothered him, though he could not say what. Admiral, he called as Zixthera prepared to leave. Tell me more about this final battle. You said the humans fought unusually hard. Zixthera paused, considering his words. They were different from other species we have disciplined. Most surrender when they realize they cannot win. The humans kept fighting even when their situation was hopeless. Their admiral, this Sarah Chen, chose to ram our flagship rather than surrender. Interesting, Vexmiran mused. And what did she say before the end? Something about remembering them, about humanity returning stronger. The usual desperate words of the defeated. Zixthera hesitated, though she broadcasted on all frequencies, almost as if she wanted someone specific to hear it. Vexmiran's ancient eyes narrowed. Someone specific? Who? Unknown. Perhaps other humans in distant systems. But as I reported, their scattered ships pose no threat. They are too few and too far away. The old council lord said nothing more, but his mind worked. In 50,000 years of life, he had seen many species rise and fall. Most followed predictable patterns, but occasionally, very rarely, a species surprised everyone. He thought about Admiral Chen's final words. Most defeated commanders spoke of surrender, of mercy, of protecting their homeworld. But this human had spoken of return, of becoming stronger. It suggested a mindset the Council rarely encountered. Still, the facts were clear. Humanity was defeated, their fleet was destroyed, their world blockaded, their technology inferior. Even if some humans survived in distant colonies, they lacked the resources to threaten anyone. The Council had maintained peace for 10,000 years by dealing with such threats early and decisively. Yet something nagged at Vexmiran's ancient mind. The humans had spread farther and faster than any species in recorded history. In just 30 years, they had established colonies across multiple sectors. Their exploration ships had been reported in areas where no civilized species ventured. What if some of those ships had gone even farther than the Council knew? What if human colonies existed beyond the reach of Council intelligence? The galaxy was vast and even the Council's knowledge had limits. But no, he told himself. The humans were defeated. Their brief expansion was over. Even if some survived in distant systems, they would wither and die without support from their homeworld. It would take centuries to build the kind of fleet that could threaten the Council, and humanity did not have centuries. The old lord finally left the chamber, pushing his concerns aside. The Council had more immediate problems to handle. The human threat was over. On Earth, life continued under the watchful eyes of the blockade fleet. Cities functioned normally. People worked, loved, and lived their lives. Children were born who would never see the stars their parents had briefly touched. But in hidden bases deep underground and in the ocean depths, other work continued. The humans had not forgotten Admiral Chen's message. They remembered her words about returning stronger, and slowly, carefully, they began to prepare. They could not build ships powerful enough to break the blockade. Not yet, but they could study Council technology, learn from captured weapons and equipment. They could send secret messages to whoever might be listening in the void. And they could wait. Humanity had learned patience the hard way. The Council thought they had won completely, but the humans knew something the ancient aliens had forgotten in their 10,000 years of peace. Sometimes the defeated side does not stay defeated. Sometimes they just go somewhere else to get stronger. Far beyond the Council's reach, where stars were young and space was dark, something was stirring. Admiral Chen's final message had been heard, and those who heard it were not pleased with what had happened to Earth. Captain Marcus Torres stood in the observation deck of the Generation ship Endurance, watching the red giant star that had been their home for 3 years. His great-grandfather had been among the 2 million people who left Earth 70 years ago, part of humanity's first wave of deep space colonization. Now Marcus commanded one of 12 massive arc ships scattered across 3 different galaxies, each carrying the hopes of humanity's future. The Endurance was enormous, a city-sized vessel designed to travel between stars and establish new colonies. Her hull stretched for 15 kilometers, containing farms, factories, schools, and homes for her population. She had been humanity's greatest achievement when she launched, representing everything humans could accomplish when they worked together. But today, Marcus felt only grief as he read the message that had arrived through the quantum communication array. The words were simple but devastating. The Council has won. Earth has fallen. Humanity's time in this galaxy is over. Remember us, sir? His communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, approached carefully. We're receiving similar transmissions from the other arc ships. All 12 colony fleets are reporting the same message from Earth. Marcus nodded grimly. He had expected this news. The quantum entanglement communicators could send messages instantly across any distance, linking the far colonies with Earth. But the signals were weak and could only carry short transmissions. Admiral Chen's final words from the Defiance had taken 3 days to reach them. Any response from the other fleet commanders? Marcus asked. Admiral Rodriguez from the New Horizon wants to call an emergency conference. Captain Williams of the Star Wanderer agrees. So far, 8 of the 12 fleet commanders have agreed to meet. Marcus turned away from the observation window. Behind him, the planet New Eden turned slowly on its axis, showing green continents and blue oceans. His people had spent 30 years terraforming that world, turning a dead rock into a paradise. It was one of hundreds of human colonies scattered across this part of the galaxy. Tell them yes, he said finally. We'll meet on New Geneva. It's the most central location. 3 weeks later, representatives from all 12 human colony fleets gathered in the capital city of New Geneva. The planet was humanity's greatest success story outside Earth, a bustling world of 50 million people who had never seen their species' homeworld. The city itself was a marvel of human engineering, with towers reaching toward the sky and parks filled with flowers from a dozen different worlds. The meeting took place in the Council Chamber, a building designed to look like the old United Nations headquarters on Earth. 12 men and women sat around a circular table. each representing millions of human lives scattered across the dark between stars. Admiral Elena Rodriguez spoke first. Her fleet, the New Horizon Group, had established colonies in the Andromeda Galaxy. We all know why we're here. Earth has been defeated. Our homeworld is under alien control. The question is, what do we do about it? Captain David Williams leaned forward. His people had traveled the farthest, establishing colonies in a distant galaxy where no known alien species lived. The logical choice is to continue our expansion here. We're safe from this galactic council. We can build new civilizations far from their reach. And abandon Earth? Captain Lisa Chang's voice was sharp with anger. Her colony ships had only recently arrived in this galaxy, after a 40-year journey. 8 billion people are trapped on our homeworld. We just leave them to alien control? What else can we do? Captain Singh asked practically. According to the message, our entire fleet was destroyed. The Council has superior technology and numbers. We can't fight them with what we have here. Marcus had been listening quietly, but now he stood. Around the table, 11 pairs of eyes turned to him. His family had helped design the original colony mission, and his voice carried weight among the fleet commanders. 70 years ago, our ancestors left Earth to spread humanity across the stars, he said slowly. They didn't do it because Earth was safe and comfortable. They did it because they knew that someday, Earth might face a threat it couldn't handle alone. That day has come. He activated a holographic display showing the known galaxy. Hundreds of dots marked human colonies, mining stations, and outposts. Look at what we've accomplished. 237 colonies, 400 million people, industrial capacity that rivals entire alien civilizations. We're not the same humans who left Earth with nothing but hope and determination. Admiral Rodriguez nodded slowly. You're suggesting we return to Earth, take on this galactic council. I'm suggesting we do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds, Marcus replied. We find a way to win. Captain Williams shook his head. The message said Earth's fleet was completely destroyed. These aliens have technology we can't match. It would be suicide, would it? Captain Chang activated another display, this one showing recent technological developments across the human colonies. We've had 70 years to study alien artifacts and technologies. The mining colonies in the Vega system found ruins with advanced metallurgy techniques. The research stations near the galactic core discovered new physics principles. Our people on the rim worlds have been reverse engineering alien computers for decades. She highlighted specific examples. The orbital shipyards around New Geneva can build vessels twice the size of anything Earth ever constructed. The industrial worlds in the Centauri cluster have been mass-producing advanced weapons for colony defense. And the deep space monitoring stations have been watching alien civilizations for 50 years, learning their tactics and weaknesses. Marcus smiled grimly. The Council thinks they defeated humanity, but they only defeated the humans who stayed in one galaxy. They don't know about us. Even if we could build a fleet, Captain Singh said doubtfully, how would we get it to Earth? The distances involved. The same way our ancestors got here, Admiral Rodriguez said, understanding beginning to show in her eyes. Generation ships, sleeper ships, long-range vessels designed for extended voyages. We've been building them for decades to expand our colonies. Captain Williams was still skeptical. A military expedition of that size would take years to organize, decades to reach Earth, and we'd be fighting enemies who know their own territory. Then we make alliances, Marcus said simply. The message mentioned a galactic council, which suggests multiple alien species working together. If they rule by force, there must be others who resent their control. We find those species. We offer them something they want, such as? Captain Chang asked. Freedom, Marcus replied. The same thing we want. The debate continued for hours, but gradually the tide turned in Marcus's favor. One by one, the colony commanders agreed that humanity could not abandon Earth. They had the resources, the technology, and the determination to attempt the impossible. This won't be like the old wars on Earth, Admiral Rodriguez warned. We'll be fighting across interstellar distances against enemies we don't understand. Many of us won't live to see the outcome. Our ancestors knew they might not live to see their colonies succeed, Marcus replied. But they went anyway, because they believed in humanity's future among the stars. Now it's our turn to take that risk. The final vote was unanimous. All 12 colony fleets would contribute ships, people, and resources to what they called Operation Homecoming. It would be the largest military expedition in human history, a fleet carrying the hopes and anger of 400 million colonial humans. But first, they had work to do. Ships to build, technologies to develop, alliances to forge. The Council thought humanity was defeated, trapped on a single world. They were about to discover their mistake. As the meeting ended and the commanders prepared to return to their fleets, Marcus looked out at the night sky of New Geneva. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, humanity's birthworld under alien control. The people there probably thought they were forgotten, abandoned by their children among the stars. They were wrong. The children of Earth were coming home, and they were bringing gifts the Galactic Council would never expect. The long journey to Earth would begin within the year. It would take 20 years for the colonial fleets to reach the edge of Council space, but when they arrived, they would not come as refugees or explorers. They would come as liberators. 20 years had passed since the secret meeting on New Geneva. Admiral Zixathera, now gray-scaled and moving slowly, stood on the bridge of his patrol ship watching Earth turn below. The blue world looked peaceful from space, its cities glowing softly in the darkness. The blockade had become routine duty, a quiet posting where young officers learned the basics of fleet command. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "monthly patrol reports from sectors 7 through 12. All quiet, no unusual activity detected." Zixathera nodded absently. 20 years of the same reports. No human ships trying to break the blockade, no signs of resistance from the planet below. The humans had accepted their fate, just as the Council had predicted. Their brief dream of expansion was over. "What about the Outer Rim?" he asked, more from habit than concern. "Patrol Squadron 5 reports some unusual sensor readings near the edge of our territory," the officer replied. "Ships of unknown configuration, but they stayed outside Council space. Probably traders from the independent systems." The old admiral frowned slightly. Independent systems were always testing Council boundaries, looking for opportunities to expand their own influence. But they never posed a real threat. The Council fleet was too strong, their technology too advanced. "Maintain standard patrols," he ordered. "Alert me if anything enters our space without permission." What Admiral Zixathera did not know was that the unknown ships were advance scouts from the human colonial fleets. For 5 years, fast reconnaissance vessels had been mapping Council territory, studying patrol patterns and identifying weaknesses in their defenses. The humans had learned patience during their long exile. Deep in space beyond the range of Council sensors, the main human fleet was gathering. 400 ships had made the 20-year journey from the colonial territories, carrying 2 million volunteers who had given up their peaceful lives to free Earth. But these were not the same humans who had fled the galaxy 70 years ago. Captain Elena Chen, daughter of the legendary Admiral Sarah Chen, stood in the command center of the massive battleship Liberation. Around her, tactical displays showed the positions of human ships scattered across a dozen star systems. The fleet was enormous by colonial standards, but still small compared to the Council's full military might. "Ma'am," her intelligence officer reported, "we're receiving confirmation signals from our contacts inside Council territory. The Zephyrian rebels are ready to move when we begin our attack. The Corvan Independence Movement has stockpiled weapons in 3 systems, and the Thalax mining guilds have agreed to cut off supplies to Council military bases." Elena nodded grimly. The most important part of Operation Homecoming had not been building ships or training soldiers. It had been making contact with species oppressed by Council rule. The galaxy, it turned out, was not as united as the Council believed. "What about our people on Earth?" she asked. "Resistance cells are in position. They've been preparing for 20 years, just like us. When we arrive, they'll be ready to support the assault." Elena looked at the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. The planet was surrounded by Council patrol ships, but the blockade was designed to keep humans in, not to keep attackers out. The Council had grown complacent during 20 years of peace. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Operation Homecoming begins in 6 hours." The human attack began at the edge of Council space, where fast destroyers emerged from hyperspace to strike isolated patrol bases. The base's distress signals reached Admiral Zixathera within minutes, but what he heard made no sense. "Unknown attackers using advanced weapons," one panicked report stated. "Ships of unusual design. They're targeting our communication arrays specifically." More reports followed. Attacks in 6 different sectors, all coordinated, all hitting strategic targets. Supply depots destroyed. Communication relays knocked out. Patrol squadrons engaged by superior forces. Who is attacking us? Zixthera demanded as he tried to make sense of the tactical displays. What species has this kind of military capability? His intelligence officer looked confused. Sir, the ship designs don't match any known civilization. The weapons technology appears to be a hybrid of different systems we've seen before, but combined in ways we've never encountered. As the day progressed, the pattern became clear. The attackers were not trying to occupy territory. Instead, they were systematically dismantling the Council's ability to communicate and coordinate. It was the kind of strategy only a species with detailed knowledge of Council operations could execute. Sir, the communications officer called urgently. We're receiving reports from the inner systems. The Zephyrian colonies have declared independence. The Corvin mining worlds have stopped all shipments to Council facilities. There are uprisings on 17 different worlds. Zixthera's blood turned cold. Coordinated rebellions across Council space. Timed to coincide with the mysterious attacks. This was not random violence. This was a carefully planned campaign to destroy Council authority. Get me a priority channel to Kelros Prime, he ordered. The Council lords need to know what's happening. But when he tried to contact the Council homeworld, he found the communication networks were down. The attackers had cut the quantum relay stations that linked the far reaches of Council space to the central government. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Council was deaf and blind to events in their own territory. As the second day of attacks began, Admiral Zixthera finally got his first clear look at the enemy. A human destroyer, sleek and deadly, decloaked right in front of his flagship. The ship's design was unlike anything from the old Earth fleet. It incorporated advanced alien technologies that should have been beyond human capability. Impossible, he whispered. The humans were defeated. We destroyed their entire fleet. But the evidence was right in front of him. Somehow humanity had returned with ships more advanced than anything the Council possessed. The destroyer's weapons tore through his flagship's shields like they were made of paper. Emergency alarms wailed as his ship began to die around him. All hands abandon ship, he ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos. As a professional soldier, he could appreciate the skill of the attack even as it destroyed him. The escape pods had barely cleared the dying flagship when more human ships appeared. But instead of destroying the defenseless pods, they tractored them aboard. Zixthera found himself a prisoner of the species he thought he had defeated 20 years ago. The human who met him in the detention bay was a tall woman with graying hair and her mother's determined eyes. Admiral Zixthera, Elena Chen said formally. I am Admiral Elena Chen of the Human Colonial Fleet. Welcome aboard the Liberation. Chen, Zixthera said slowly. You are related to the Admiral who died at Earth. Sarah Chen was my mother, Elena replied. She sent a message before she died, Admiral. A message that reached people you didn't know existed. People who spent 20 years preparing for this day. Zixthera's mind raced as he began to understand. The colony ships. The humans who left Earth before our war began. You survived out there in the dark. We did more than survive, Elena said coldly. We grew, we learned, we made friends among the species your Council oppressed. And now we've come home. Through the detention bay's viewport, Zixthera could see the scope of the human fleet. Hundreds of ships, many larger than anything the old Earth fleet had possessed. And in the distance he could see alien vessels flying alongside the human ships. Zephyrian cruisers, Corvin frigates, even ships from species he didn't recognize. How many? He asked quietly. Enough, Elena replied. Admiral, your Council ruled through fear and superior technology. But you made a mistake. You assumed that defeating Earth meant defeating humanity. You forgot that humans don't stay beaten. We just go somewhere else to get stronger. The third day brought news that shook the Council to its foundations. Human fleets had appeared in 8 different sectors simultaneously. They were not raiding or exploring, they were liberating. World after world declared independence as human ships arrived to support local rebel movements. The Council emergency session on Kelros Prime was chaos. Lord Veltron tried to maintain order as reports poured in from across their territory. Ancient Lord Vexamiran sat silently, his worst fears coming true. How did we miss this? Lord Kixendra demanded. Where did they get such advanced technology? They learned from us, Vexamiran said quietly. Every artifact they found, every piece of our technology they encountered during their expansion, they studied and improved upon. While we remained static in our superiority, they grew stronger. What do they want? Lord Fisara asked. The answer came in a broadcast transmitted across Council space. Elena Chen's image appeared on every screen, speaking to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. People of the galaxy, she began. I am Admiral Elena Chen of the Human Liberation Fleet. 20 years ago, the Galactic Council attacked my species and imprisoned our homeworld. They told you this was for peace, for order, but true peace cannot exist where freedom is denied. Her words were translated into hundreds of languages, reaching species that had never heard of humanity. We have returned not for conquest but for liberation. Every species has the right to determine its own destiny. The age of Council dominance is over. The battle for Earth began at dawn on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Elena Chen stood on the bridge of the Liberation as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Before them spread the Council blockade fleet, 50 ships that had kept humanity imprisoned for 20 years. Ma'am, her tactical officer reported, Council ships are powering weapons and moving to intercept. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Elena smiled grimly. Tell them we're here to collect what belongs to us. All human personnel should evacuate immediately if they want to live. The Council commander, a young officer who had never seen real combat, responded with threats and warnings about attacking Council forces. Elena cut off the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. Show them what 20 years of preparation looks like. The human fleet opened fire with weapons the Council had never seen before. Plasma cannons powered by zero-point energy, kinetic rounds that could punch through any known shield technology, missiles that could think for themselves and adapt to enemy defenses. The Council ships, designed to intimidate primitive species, crumbled under the assault. Within an hour, the blockade was broken. Half the Council ships were destroyed, the rest fleeing toward deep space with human fighters chasing them. The way to Earth was clear for the first time in 20 years. Signal Earth Control, Elena ordered. Tell them their children have come home. On the planet below, crowds gathered in every major city as news of the liberation spread. President Harrison, now an old man who had spent 2 decades managing life under Council rule, stood before the cameras with tears in his eyes. Citizens of Earth, he said, his voice shaking with emotion. Today we are free. The brave men and women who left our world to spread humanity among the stars have returned to free us from our prison. The celebration was interrupted by urgent reports from across the galaxy. Human fleets were completing their liberation of Council space, systematically destroying the infrastructure of oppression that had kept hundreds of species under alien control. But the most dramatic victory came at Kelros Prime itself, where the Council Lords had ruled for 10,000 years. Admiral Elena Chen, her mission at Earth complete, led the assault on the Council's capital world personally. The crystal dome that housed the Council chamber had been turned into a fortress, surrounded by defensive platforms and protected by the most advanced shields in the galaxy. But the humans did not come alone. Dozens of alien species that had suffered under Council rule joined the attack, bringing their own ships and their own anger. This is Admiral Chen to all Council forces, Elena broadcast as her fleet approached the gas giant. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. After that, we will take the station by force. Lord Veltaran, the Council Prime, responded personally.
Admiral Chen, you are making a terrible mistake.
The Council has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Without us, the galaxy will fall into chaos and war. Your peace was built on oppression, Elena replied coldly. Your order came at the cost of freedom for billions of beings. That ends today. You cannot govern a galaxy, Veltaran protested. You are too young, too violent. You will destroy everything we have built. Elena's voice was steady and calm. We're not here to rule anyone. We're here to make sure no one rules everyone else. Each species will govern itself as it should be. The hour passed in tense silence. Then the human fleet, supported by ships from 17 different species, began their final assault. The Council's defenses were impressive, but they had been designed to fight the previous war. Human weapons, enhanced by technologies learned from a dozen different civilizations, cut through the defensive shields like acid through cloth. The battle was fierce but brief. Within 3 hours, human marines were boarding the Council station. Lord Vex Mirren, the Ancient One who had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, met them at the airlock. I surrender, he said simply. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I surrender unconditionally. Elena Chen, wearing combat armor marked with the insignia of the human colonial fleet, accepted the surrender personally. Behind her came representatives of every species that had joined the liberation: Zephyrians, Corvins, Thalax, and dozens of others. "The council is dissolved," Elena announced to the assembled aliens. "Each species will be free to govern itself as it sees fit. Those who wish to join a new galactic alliance based on cooperation rather than domination are welcome to participate." Lord Vexmiran looked at the young human admiral with something like admiration. "You have won a great victory today. But governing is harder than conquering. How will you prevent the chaos that destroyed the galaxy before the council brought order?" Elena considered the question seriously, the same way humans have always solved problems. "We'll work together, argue a lot, make mistakes, and keep trying until we get it right. Freedom isn't perfect, but it's better than the alternative." As the news of the council's surrender spread across the galaxy, species after species declared their independence. Some formed new alliances with their neighbors. Others chose to remain isolated. A few tried to claim territory that wasn't theirs, leading to small conflicts that were quickly resolved by the combined fleets of the Liberation Alliance. The humans, true to their word, did not try to rule the galaxy. Instead, they helped establish a new galactic assembly where each species had an equal voice. The humans controlled no more territory than any other founding member, despite their role in the liberation. 6 months after the liberation, a special tribunal convened on New Geneva to try former council leaders for crimes against galactic freedom. Admiral Zixathera, who had spent the war as a prisoner aboard human ships, was brought before the court. Admiral Zixathera, the human judge, said, "You are charged with implementing the blockade of Earth and suppressing the rights of 17 species. How do you plead?" The old reptilian officer stood straight despite his chains. "I served my government faithfully according to the laws of my time. I regret the suffering caused, but I will not apologize for doing my duty." Elena Chen, serving as a witness, spoke from the audience. "Your Honor, Admiral Zixathera fought honorably according to his understanding of the situation. He treated prisoners well and followed the rules of war. I recommend clemency." The tribunal ultimately sentenced Zixathera to community service, helping to rebuild worlds damaged during the liberation wars. It was a fair punishment that focused on healing rather than revenge. After the trial, Zixathera approached Elena privately. "Admiral, may I ask you something that has puzzled me?" "Of course. When my people defeated your fleet 20 years ago, we thought we had won completely. How did your species recover so quickly?" Elena smiled, thinking of her mother's sacrifice and the long journey that had brought them home. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that powerful species always make. You thought defeating us once meant we would stay defeated." She gestured toward the window, where ships from dozens of species shared the orbital space around New Geneva in peaceful cooperation. "Humans don't surrender, Admiral. When we're beaten, we just go somewhere else to get stronger, and we remember our friends and enemies. But how did you build such advanced technology so quickly?" "We didn't," Elena replied. "We learned from everyone we met. Every alien artifact, every piece of advanced technology, every scientific principle. We studied it all and improved upon it. While the Council remained static in their superiority, humanity grew stronger by borrowing the best ideas from everywhere." Zixathera nodded slowly. "And when you came back, you brought those improvements with you." "Along with friends," Elena added. "Turns out lots of species didn't like being told what to do by the Council. They just needed someone to give them hope that change was possible." The old admiral was quiet for a long moment. "In my military training, we studied the concept of total victory. The idea was to defeat an enemy so completely that they could never threaten you again. And I begin to think that total victory is impossible against a species like yours. You can be defeated, but you cannot be broken, and if you survive defeat, you become more dangerous than before." Elena nodded. "That's the human way, Admiral. We learn from our mistakes, we remember our losses, and we come back stronger. It served us well so far." As the months passed, the new galactic order began to take shape. Trade flourished between worlds that had been forbidden to contact each other under Council rule. Scientific knowledge spread freely, leading to rapid advances in technology and medicine. Art and culture bloomed as species shared their unique perspectives with each other. There were problems, of course. Some species tried to dominate their neighbors, pirates raided shipping lanes. Territorial disputes flared up regularly. But the new Galactic Assembly provided a forum for resolving conflicts peacefully, and the combined fleets of member species maintained order without oppression. Humanity found its place in this new galaxy not as rulers, but as facilitators. Human diplomats helped negotiate treaties. Human engineers shared their hybrid technologies. Human merchants carried goods between worlds that had never traded before. And on Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen's monument bore a new inscription added by her daughter. She died believing humanity would return to the stars stronger than before. Today, her faith is vindicated.